A serious warning on something that might sound like a myth, but it's serious. Take a look at this needle device. Someone filling up at a Chicago Ridge Shell at 111th and Ridgeland felt a poke as they were squeezing the nozzle.
A fence at the end means no way out, or does it?
Hello everybody, it's Blobby back again with another video. I hope you're all doing well. I know in the last video I had finally said that I was not suffering from COVID anymore and I had planned on getting work started again and start making videos again, but I had immediately lost a lot of motivation following, the last upload. Finally, in like the last week or so, I gained a lot of motivation back and I started working on a video that's going to come out in the near future featuring some of my friends. But I decided that since that was taking a little while, I should have just a regular video coming out right now. So we're back with the Urban Legends Iceberg Part 3. If you haven't seen the other two parts, I recommend doing so. You don't really have to though, because it is an iceberg chart, so it's not like any of the information is interlocked. Or I guess in this one, none of the information is interlocked, so you don't need to know anything from the previous tiers to be able to watch and enjoy this video. But I still recommend doing so just because I worked pretty hard on those videos, and obviously I appreciate it. If you've never watched an iceberg video before, an iceberg chart basically is just a chart where the very top layer or the tip of the iceberg has the least obscure or least disturbing information, but as you go through the depths it slowly gets more and more disturbing or more obscure until you reach the very bottom of the iceberg. With that all being said, let's just get right into it. Zylgo. While this is a creepypasta and not necessarily an urban legend, I guess you can kind of see them as the same thing, as most urban legends are just scary stories anyway. Zylgo is basically a ominous being that had the ability to induce insanity, death, and total destruction of the entire world. It's often seen as the personification of chaos and evil, and the origin of this creepypasta is the Something Awful Forum website, where a user named Goonshmorky uploaded several versions of the comic Nancy and Archie where the term Zylgo is used. Later, that same user would explain his creation of Zylgo, saying that he liked how people tried to solve the meme and nobody really knew what the origin was, before he went on to say that he was the creator and had just made it up. Zylgo is also a text that was modified by combining characters and Unicode symbols in order to add things above and below the letters to make them look glitchy. Laughing Jack. The name of the main character of a creepypasta by the same name, Laughing Jack is a sadistic killer clown that mainly targets young children after he was forgotten by his owner. He was originally a good clown and just an all-around great person, but his personality matches the personality of his owners, so when one of his owners ends up being a sadistic serial killer, so does he. Devil's Chair. A chair commonly referred to in folklore, which is attached to a type of funerary or memorial structure that was common in the US during the 19th century, which was also commonly associated with the legend tripping. Superstitions and legends arose with people saying that sitting on the chairs or being near them after dark or at midnight, or even on specific nights like Halloween or New Year's, would cause someone to either be punished for impudence or rewarded for being courageous. Kuchisaki Anna, also called the Slit-Mouth Woman, is a malevolent figure in the Japanese urban legends and folklore. Described as a malicious spirit or onro of a woman, she will partially cover her face with a mask or other item and will carry some type of sharp object, usually scissors. She's described as being beautiful with long black straight hair and pale skin. She'll ask potential victims if they believe that she is beautiful. If they respond with no, she will kill them, and if they respond with yes, she would reveal that her mouth is slit from ear to ear before repeating her question. If the individual responds no, she kills them with her weapon. If she says yes, she would cut the corners of their mouth in order to resemble hers. The only way to survive is to say she looks average, or distracting her with money or hard candies while you run away. Madam Koi Koi. A Nigerian folk legend about a ghost woman that would haunt dormitories, hallways, and toilets in boarding schools at night, and during the day she would haunt toilets and students that would come too early or leave too late. She's depicted as wearing a pair of red heels or just a singular heel, and she's one of the most popular boarding school ghosts in Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa. Her hauntings range from opening doors, whistling, attacking people in the toilets or bathrooms, or just slapping students. Her presence is always accompanied by her footsteps. The origin of Madame Koi Koi varies between a beautiful teacher that was fired for attacking students before getting in a car accident, to being a wicked woman that would inflict extreme pain on her students before they cornered her and killed her. Melody is dead. This legend says that Spanish singer Melody was actually killed in 2005 when she had disappeared from the media and waited 3 years to release another record. This legend has multiple stories, one of which claiming that she had been killed in an airplane accident, while another circulated that she had committed game end when suffering from depression. But it turned out it was just another person who had the name Melody, unlike the singer whose real name is Melodia. Sewer alligators. A legend dating back to the late 1920s based on reports of alligator sightings in unorthodox locations, like New York City. The New York Times had claimed that the city rescues about 100 alligators per year, some directly from homes where they were kept as illegal pets, and some being outside, mostly above ground. But sewer maintenance crews insist that there's no underground population of alligators because the low temperature and bacteria wouldn't allow anything to live in there long term. The legend had initially arose from baby alligators in Florida being sold to tourists from New York, where then they would take the alligators home, allow them to grow, but it would get to a point where people would become uncomfortable with the size of the alligator, where they would flush it down the toilet, and it would continue to survive feeding off of rats and garbage and growing into huge sizes, scaring off any sewer workers. Vanishing hitchhiker. This is a pretty generic urban legend that describes a ghostly hitchhiker that would ask to get a ride on the side of the street and would mysteriously vanish some point during the car ride. Walking Sam. South Dakota is home to one of the largest Native American reservations in the country. And in this reservation, the legend of Walking Sam would arise after 103 teenagers would attempt to end their lives between December of 2014 and March of 2015. Previous years had clusters of people trying to end their lives, but it had never been this large. People began to point at this large number and try to link it to a sinister force that had long existed in Native American tradition, usually referred to as stick people or gay men spirits. With the explosion of Slenderman, the stories had morphed into this single figure called Walking Sam, described as a 7-foot tall figure with eyes but no mouth, sometimes sporting a stovepipe hat. He would raise his arms to display previous victims hanging beneath and would call out to teenagers, attempting to persuade them into ending their lives by telling them that they are worthless. Wendigo. The Wendigo, unlike the popular YouTuber Wendigoon, is a mythical creature that originates from the folklore of Plains and Great Lake natives. The creature is described as malevolent spirit, often depicted as a creature with human-like characteristics that would possess human beings. It's said to invoke feelings of insatiable greed and hunger, as well as the desire to cannibalize other humans and murder them. In modern-day psychiatry, the Wendigo lends its name in a psychosis called Wendigo psychosis, where a person is characterized as having an intense craving for human flesh, an intense fear of becoming a cannibal. A hodag. Hodag is a tricky little creature that's described as having large, sharp teeth with thick, curved spikes down its back. It's treated mostly as a joke, with most of the things that the creature does is steal sunglasses, keys, or just help the big one get away from fishermen. Friday the 13th. Often described as a day of bad luck, Friday the 13th is seen as mostly unlucky in modern Western culture. The origination of the unluckiness surrounding the number 13 is from a Norse myth where 12 gods were having a dinner party in Valhalla when the trickster god Loki appears uninvited as the 13th guest, arranging for Thor to shoot Balder. But when Balder died, the entire earth went dark, making the day very bad and unlucky. There's also a very famous movie franchise about Friday the 13th. A serial killer named Jason, or in the original, his mother Pamela, kills camp counselors at Camp Crystal Lake on Friday the 13th. Rat Kings. A rat king is a collection of rats that are intertwined together in some way, maybe just as a result of entangling materials like hair or sap/gum, or even just the tails being tied together, Historically, the phenomenon is associated with Germany, with the majority of the cases of rat kings appearing in European countries. A similar phenomenon with squirrels has also been observed. Fudakuchi-ana. I'm really sorry if I'm butchering some of these. This creature is a Japanese monster disguised as a woman. It's characterized by their two mouths, one on their face and the other on the back of their head, hidden beneath their hair. The woman's skull would split apart, forming lips, teeth, and a tongue. It's a fully working mouth on the back of their head. In the folklore, women are cursed or given a supernatural disease, causing them to transform into this creature, where the supernatural nature of the woman is hidden until the very last minute where its true self is revealed. Girl from the Gap. This Japanese legend says that an evil spirit lives between the gaps of things like furniture and slightly open doors. The spirit, taking the form of a girl. If you lock eyes with the girl between the gap, she asks you to play hide and seek. But if while you're playing you accidentally look into her eyes in the gap, you'd be instantly transported to hell. No Parabo. This is a ghost that looks like a human but has no face. The story originated in Japan, where people would often mistake them as Mujina, which is a Japanese badger. The spirit is usually disguised as a human in order to frighten other humans, but other than that, they're described as harmless. Infected needles hidden in gas pumps. This was a hoax that was spread from a Facebook post that warned people to be careful before gassing their cars because people were putting HIV needles in gas stations. The only truth to this hoax is in 2017, a man did report to have been pricked by a needle while he was pumping gas in California, which was used as the photo for the original Facebook post. I also used a clip where it happened to someone else in the intro to this video. Redcaps. Described as a murderous goblin in border folklore. It inhabits ruined castles along the Anglo-Scottish border. The goblin would throw large stones at travelers who would try to take refuge in his lair. If he kills any of the travelers, he would then soak his cap in the blood of his victims, giving him the name Redcap. Elevator to another dimension. The elevator to another dimension isn't really an urban legend, as it is like a scary game to play. To play the game, you must be alone in an elevator inside of a building at least 10 stories high. When you're in the elevator, you must make sure that there's no one else inside, or if there is someone else inside, you have to wait to play the game until they get out. Once you're in the elevator, you press the button for the 4th floor. When you get to the 4th floor, you remain in the elevator and then press the 2nd floor button. On the 2nd floor, you press the button for the 6th floor. On the 6th floor, you press the 2nd floor button again. On the 2nd floor, you press the 10th floor. Once you reach the 10th floor, you will finally hit the button for the 5th floor. A woman will enter the elevator. You cannot look at her or speak to her, as she isn't what she seems. You must then press the button for the 1st floor. If it ascends to the 10th floor, you can proceed. If you descend to the 1st floor, exit immediately and do not speak or look back. If you reach the 10th floor, you can choose to get off or stay on. She'll ask where you're going if you decide to leave. Do not respond to her. You will know when you arrive at the other world from one indication. The only person around is you. There are a few steps for exiting the other world, or exiting the elevator just at the 10th floor, but make the video a bit too long, or I guess this entry specifically a bit too long. So, if you decide to play this dangerous and most likely fake game, you can look it up on your own time. La Llorona. Described as a vengeful ghost in Hispanic American folklore, the La Llorona roams waterfront areas, mourning her children that she had drowned. There are a few variations of the origin of why she had drowned her children. Some stories saying it was because the kids were illegitimate and she drowned them so the father cannot raise them with his new wife, while another says that she saw her husband with another woman and does it in a fit of rage. In both stories, she ends up filled with guilt and drowns herself, where she's forced into purgatory and must roam the earth until she finds her children. Tommy Knows Hell. A cursed poem that would supposedly kill or curse any person who reads it out loud. The poem was written by Saijiao Yaso and released in 1919 in his collection Sek. Some of the curses that may come from reading it would be deadly illnesses, extremely dangerous accidents, or any other number of terrible consequences. Phantom vehicles. Phantom vehicles are ghosts of haunted vehicles. There's been a few reports of people seeing these type of ghost cars on multiple occasions. Most of the stories saying that they would see a car appear mysteriously, before quickly disappearing, or just cars that would disappear and then immediately reappear seconds later. Roswell incident. This incident was the recovery of balloon debris from a ranch near Corona, New Mexico by the U.S. Army Air Force. Decades later, people had claimed that the debris had actually involved a flying saucer and that the truth had been covered up by the U.S. government. These claims were definitely not weakened by the odd response that the Army had given them. The Roswell Army Airfield had issued a press release saying that they had discovered a flying disc, but very quickly after that, the Army would redact that statement, saying that the crashed object was actually just a conventional weather balloon. Ningen. In modern Japanese folklore, the ningen is described as an aquatic humanoid whale-like creature that was supposedly inhabiting the subantarctic oceans. The first people who talked about the creature were Japanese internet users on a forum website called 2channel, where people claimed that members of a whale research group had witnessed the creature as it surfaced near their ship off the Antarctic coast. Bloody Bones. A boogeyman that's typically feared by children, sometimes called Rawhead, Tommy Rawhead, or just Rawhead and Bloody Bone. The origin of Bloody Bones dates back to 1548, where the term Rawhead and Bloody Bones were used to keep children in check. Bloody Bones often haunts deep ponds, oceans, and old marl pits, where it would drag children into the depths. Children would be warned to keep away from the pits or else Rawhead and Bloody Bones will hit them. Hungry Snake. Not the mobile game. Hungry Snake is about a couple that had owned a python. Snake was rather large, but the family had owned it for a while, so they chose to let him roam free and not live in a cage. But the couple soon became concerned when the snake stopped eating. All the snake would do is lay around and occasionally slither onto their bed and stretch. They decided to take the snake to the vet, where the doctor told them to get rid of it, as the snake had been preparing to eat the family. It was only stretching to measure how tall they were, to decide if he could fit them into his body. Tourist Guy. The tourist guy was an image of a tourist on the observation deck of the World Trade Center that had been altered to show a plane about to hit the building. The man in the photo had said he had edited the photo just simply as a joke for his friends and didn't realize how quickly it had spread on the internet. There were many inconsistencies that showed that the photo was just simply digitally altered, such as the clothing he was wearing not matching what the temperature would have been on the day, and the fact that he was on the South Tower and not the North Tower, with the wrong type of plane also being photoshopped into the image. And personally, if I were thinking realistically, I can't imagine that I'm just taking a photo of my friend while watching a plane go directly towards me in the background. Crabzilla. Crab spotted on Google Maps that was seemingly gigantic. It was about 50 feet wide, just lurking in the shallow water near a pier. While some insist that it's real, most people think it's nothing more than like an oddly shaped sandbank or a playful hoax. Personally, I think it's probably just photoshopped, but it's honestly pretty cool looking either way. Reminds me of how much I don't really like the ocean. Happy Appy. This is a creepypasta from a mysterious blog that would constantly talk about the show called Happy Appy. The story is intentionally horrible, with over 57 entries to the story being created. Happy Appy itself is a Lost Nick Jr. series featuring an anthropomorphic apple that would go around healing children that get injured, but with each episode it would get worse and worse. Credit for Happy Appy footage from Pasta937. Monoliths in Utah, California, and Romania. Monoliths are tall metal slabs that had appeared randomly in 2020, emerging before vanishing really quickly only a few weeks later. There was very little known about the monoliths and what had caused them to appear and disappear so quickly. The first monolith was discovered in a remote desert canyon in Utah, when a helicopter crew counting Bighorn had noticed a flash of metal on the ground. When they investigated, they found an enormous smooth triangular metal monolith just sitting there. On the date that the monolith in Utah had vanished, the monolith in Romania was discovered, with that one disappearing on the day the monolith in California had been discovered. But the one in California, unlike the ones in Utah and Romania, we do know who put them there. It was a group of metal artists that were inspired by the other two monoliths, and figuring that there were 3 monoliths in the 2001 A Space Odyssey, they decided to complete the trilogy themselves. Overall, it's thought that the monoliths were just simply created by artists, but it's actually not known who put up the ones in Romania and Utah. A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants. A completely lost mockumentary film from 2011 that was supposed to feature SpongeBob living above ground like all the other Hollywood superstars, And after being afraid of becoming irrelevant, his boss would run a contest called Spend a Day with SpongeBob, making SpongeBob the talk of the town. The lucky winner is a boy named Seth, who was extremely excited to spend his day with SpongeBob. But after a really quick period, the day had just become a roller coaster, as things just don't go as planned. The movie wasn't officially made by any members of Nick or Viacom, which led to a lawsuit before the movie could even get started. The creators had been sued for copyright. The director said that he planned to try to revive the film as like a GoFundMe, but it was proven false, and the film has been permanently canceled from then on. And that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I want to say a quick thank you to everyone who makes it this far in my videos, even though it isn't a lot of people. It does mean a lot to me that you sit and watch the entire thing, and I do appreciate that. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please feel free to do so. I assume you'll probably like some of my other content. If not, it's completely fine. And like always, I just appreciate all the support for all my videos and everything that I try doing on the channel. Even if some stuff doesn't do as well, it still feels nice to be able to kind of do what I want and see how things do. I'll try to be back here as soon as possible with the next video. As always, stay safe out there. I love you guys. See you soon.